Jack watched as his t-shirt went straight down the center of the fairway. He always hit it the same way. It wasn't long, it just went straight down the center of the fairway. The other two guys had already played the tee, and it was my turn. I set up and took a little practice swing. It was a par 5, pretty long and pretty open. I just decided to give it a try and see what happens. I'm a big guy and do powerlifting 4 days a week. My bench is better now than it was in college. I can do reps with 225 pounds in a way that would make the steroid freaks at the gym jealous. I had a new driver, one of those graphite composite ones, and it felt really good. I hit the sweet spot and Jack's jaw dropped. Jesus Christ, Eric, you punched it. That's 350 goddamn yards if it's an inch. That's a lot farther than that. Go up and down and you've got an eagle. I've had 2 eagles in my life. This time I felt really good about it. We started down the fairway and Jack hit his second shot. He still didn't hit my first. I heard his cell phone buzzing in his bag. He was a little hard of hearing, so I told him he had a text message. He pulled out his phone and his face went white. "Eric, I have to go," he said. "What's wrong?" I asked him. "Something at the office," he said. "Take me back, Eric." "I'm sorry, but I can't tell you about it yet. After you take me back, you can rest for the rest of the day." Jack was my boss. He also owned Whitman Enterprises. I had been working there since I graduated from college. They hired me when I was a sophomore in high school, and I was number 2 there. It was a family business. We manufactured pumps, all kinds of pumps. They were one of a kind and designed for specific purposes. We had a foundry and machine shop, and we made them from blueprint to finished product. I was the vice president of production and practically ran the company. Jack's daughter, Allison, was my co-worker in sales. I knew there had been some buzz about us being bought out by a Swiss company, so I figured that was it. I drove him to the office and headed home. I was sitting at a stoplight. It was one of those old cobblestone streets in the center of town, and an elderly woman was crossing the street in front of me. I watched in horror as her toe caught on one of the cobblestones and she stumbled. She tried to keep her balance but was now staggering forward. She dropped her grocery bag, tripped again, and fell. I heard her shriek trying to save herself as her arms hit the street. I shifted the lever to park and jumped out of the car, running around the truck and kneeling down beside her. She was crying, and I felt terribly sorry for her. Her hands were bleeding and her arm was clearly broken. I lifted her into my arms. "I'm so sorry," I told her. "I'm going to help you. You're going to be okay. I'm going to take you to the hospital. Don't you have any pain except in your arms and hands?" "No," she sobbed, "but I think my arm is broken. I dropped my groceries and I'm afraid my balls are broken too." "Well, my knees are bloody too, honey. My arm hurts so much." She was breaking my heart. Tears came to my eyes myself. This sweet little lady didn't deserve this. "I'll get you some more eggs," I told her. "Let me help you get in the truck. I'll drive you to the hospital." That made her cry even harder. "Thank you, but I can't go to the hospital." Her breathing became ragged. "I don't have insurance. I can't afford to go to the hospital." Now I felt like shit. She was a petite Negro woman, about 70 years old or so, and you could tell she was stunning. She was still very beautiful, and I felt very sorry for her. I thought of my mother. She had passed away from a stroke 2 years ago. If she had fallen like that, I would have wanted someone to take care of her. "I'll take you to the hospital," I told her. "I'll take care of it. My wife works there and we'll work something out. You look like someone's mother, and I'd like someone to help my mother. I'm taking you in. Let me help you up, get the groceries, and we'll go, okay?" "It hurts a lot," she said. "Thank you, young man. I'll never forget it." I lifted her up and put her in the front seat of the truck. It was higher than she was comfortable with, so I lifted her up. I gathered her groceries and put them in the back seat of the truck. On the way to the hospital, she said her name was Samantha Groves and that she was a widow. After driving about a mile, I stopped at the door of the emergency room. Cindy, my wife, was on shift, and I helped Samantha inside. I walked her over to the desk where Kirsten was working. I told her what was going on and that I would take care of all the bills. She immediately carried Samantha to the bed, and Rachel, the nurse, cleaned up her hands and knees while we waited for the doctor. They tried to escort me out, but Samantha was against it. She wanted me to stay, period. I asked her if she wanted to call someone. She said her phone was in her purse, so I went back to the car and got it. She still needed ID, so when I got back, I gave it to Kirsten. Samantha pulled out her phone. It was one of those cheap phones that you can buy minutes on. She dialed a number and then started crying again. "What's wrong, Samantha?" I asked. "I don't have a minute," she sobbed. "This is just a terrible day. Here, use my phone." I handed her my Android. I had to show her how to use it, and she was talking to one of the women on the other end of the line. "Cecilia, I fell and hurt myself," she said. "I'm in the hospital. No, a very nice white man is helping me. Please, honey, could you please?" "Okay, please don't worry. I was wondering where Cindy was. She worked in the emergency room. She was a physician's assistant and was supposed to be doing this." I poked my head out and saw Rachel. "Where the hell is Cindy?" I asked. "That woman is in pain and she needs help." Rachel blushed. "She left for lunch. I called her and she'll be here any minute." "What do you mean she went to lunch? She just got here." "Cindy worked from 3 to 11. Lunch break came at 7. Rachel staggered for another minute or so, but finally just walked away. What the hell was going on? I walked back over to Samantha. She was still crying. I crouched down next to her and hugged her. "It's okay, Samantha," I told her. "Who did you call?" "My granddaughter," she said. "She's in college. She just got out of class and she'll be here in a little while. Then you can leave. I know you don't want to stay here." "Nonsense," I told her. "I'm getting off work. It won't be such a bad day, Samantha. You have a new friend today. You're going to get better. Your granddaughter is on her way and you won't have to work for a while because you'll have a cast on your arm." She giggled and hugged me back. She kissed my cheek and I heard a voice behind us. It was low and husky and sounded like smoky jazz. "Who's your new lover, Grandma?" I looked back and saw a vision framed by the hospital curtain. She was small, swarthy, and cute as a newborn kitten. She walked to the other side of the bed and kissed Samantha. "I don't know his name," Samantha said. "I was so excited I forgot to ask. I think he's a good Samaritan. He took care of me. I don't know where he came from, but he's a gift from heaven." "My name is Eric Hollister," I told them, "and you must be Cecilia." I was sitting in my car in the crosswalk and saw Samantha fall. There was nothing I could do but bring her here where the doctor should have been by now. I raised my voice. I knew I was being passive-aggressive, but I was starting to lose my temper. I poked my head out from behind the curtain and saw that Rachel was avoiding my gaze. "Get Pierce," I told her. "If no one's here in 5 minutes to take care of this lady, I'll make a fuss at the next board meeting. Where the hell is Cindy?" "Dr. Pierce went to lunch with her," she said. "Well, that's just great," I thought with disgust. "Call Olivia. Your daughter is just an intern," Rachel said. "Can she prescribe medication and order a cast for this lady?" I asked. "Yes, she can do that," Rachel admitted. "Then summon her," I told her. I went back and sat down in the chair next to Samantha. "My daughter is an intern here," I told her. "She'll be here in a minute." I thought about Cindy and that creep Pierce going to lunch together. What the hell was going on? Cindy knew damn well I wouldn't like it. I'd already made that clear to her several times. The first time we dated was about 6 months. I met Cindy when we were assigned to be lab partners for a biology lab. She was absolutely gorgeous. A tall, lush girl with dark hair, fair skin, and the bluest eyes you'd ever seen. I asked her out for a cup of coffee after lab, and while we were there, I suggested we date, and she said yes. We went out to dinner in a movie, I know. Not the most fantastic date in the world, but I was 19 years old. She kissed me goodnight at the door of her room, and I asked her out again. We had been dating for 6 months, and I was walking out of an electronics store with a new video game when I saw her and George Cooper walk into the Chili's restaurant next door. I walked in, and they were sitting together in a booth in the back row. He was hugging her, and she was laughing in his face. I turned around and went home. I had an apartment across the street from the school, and I just picked up her stuff, put it in a box outside the door, and went to class. For 2 days, I didn't go home or talk to her. She called me about a dozen times and sent me a bunch of emails, but I didn't read or respond to them. Twice she waited for me at the front of the classroom when class was over, but I came back and told the professor I needed to talk to him in his office. We talked as we walked out the door, and she didn't get a chance to say anything. I was skipping biology labs. When I got up Saturday morning, she was curled up asleep in the hallway outside the door. I stepped over her and walked down the hall. I must have made some kind of noise. I tried to be inconspicuous, but she jumped up and ran after me down the hallway, wrapping her arms around me from behind. She spun me around, her eyes blazing. "What's the matter with you, Eric?" she shouted. "Why did you put my stuff out in the hallway? Why won't you talk to me? Why are you avoiding me? Have you met someone else? No, it is, I told her. I heard Cooper has an opening. Maybe you should give him a call. I know third-line runners have busy schedules. Is that what this is about? She asked incredulously. You know I went to school with him, right? We dated for a while, but now we're just friends. What did you think we were lovers? I didn't think anything of it, I told her. I was coming out of the store and saw you walk into Chili's with him. We're just two old friends having lunch, she called out. What the hell is going on with you? My girlfriends don't die in alone with other men, I told her. You jealous freak, she cried and walked away. It was another 2 days before I saw her again. I may have been a jealous jerk, but I knew how to live with myself. If others couldn't, that was fine with me. The next time I saw Cindy was when she knocked on the door. I looked out and saw her in the hallway. I don't want to, I shouted through the door. It's me, she said. Can I talk to you? I don't think so, I said. I'm a jealous asshole, remember? I'm sorry I said that, she said. Please let me come in and talk to you for a minute. I opened the door. She stood there for a minute. She didn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, Eric. I didn't know you would care. Now I know and it won't happen again. Didn't you know that people in relationships aren't supposed to go on dates alone with members of the opposite sex? I asked. You're reading the wrong relationship books, Cindy. That phrase is from a cheater's manual, not a relationship manual. I'm not a cheater, she said. It was lunch. I've known him since 4th grade. All the more reason not to be alone with him, I told her. Why didn't you tell me you were having lunch with him? If you never have lunch, then you never cheat. That's my rule. I don't do it, and no one I'm in a relationship with does it. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Okay, I forgive you, I told her. I started to walk away, and she ran after me. That's it, she asked incredulously. You're just going to walk away from me. I'm a jealous asshole, I told her. I don't think we're on the same page, Cindy. The fact that you didn't see anything wrong with going to lunch with that asshole and not telling me about it tells me that nothing good can come of it. Jesus, Eric, she blurted out. Okay, I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry I did it. Don't I mean more to you than that? Hell, I've been sleeping with you for months. Don't you know I love you? Are you really going to throw me out for having lunch with a guy I've known my whole life? I thought about it for a moment. No, I think that would be too much. I'm still mad as hell about it, but we'll see if we can work it out. If you're going to have dinner with a man other than me, you need to tell me ahead of time. I'll do the same for you. Eventually, things got better for us, and things were just on the up and up until senior year. I didn't really like campus life. I went to school to get an education, and most of the students were just jerks that I would never volunteer to hang out with. I had a few buddies that I socialized with. One of them was Patrick Kelly. He was a big soccer fan, and we had a pretty good team that year. He kept talking me into going to the game until I finally gave up and went. We didn't sit in the student section. His dad had season tickets, and we used them to get a seat on the 50-yard line. After the game, we were getting ready to leave, and I saw Cindy in the student section. I didn't know she was going to the game, or I would have asked her to join us. She was talking and laughing with a group of friends, and I started to walk up to her. Then she started walking down the steps, and there was a guy with her. She was holding onto his hand and laughing at him. I froze in place. It was George Cooper. He had an injury, and he was expelled that year. I just stood there, and she looked in my direction. Our eyes met, and she froze in place. I turned and walked away, but I heard her calling my name. I left Patrick there and continued walking. She caught up to me in the parking lot and grabbed my arm. Eric, oh my God, Eric, it wasn't what it looked like. I didn't. I interrupted her. I don't care, Cindy, let go of my hand. Talk to me, Eric. She began to cry. Let me. I politely asked you to let go of my hand, I told her. She lowered her hand and I started walking. She turned around and stood in front of me. You're not leaving until you give me a chance to explain. She barked. Goodbye, Cindy. I walked around her and left her crying. She called me about 10 times a day until the semester was over, and I didn't answer or listen to her messages. She set up her campsite in the hallway outside my apartment, but I just packed up, climbed out the window, and stayed with Patrick for the rest of the semester. Over Christmas break, I went to my parents' house, and she stopped by a couple times to see me. I told my mom and dad not to let her in and refused to go to the door. I transferred a semester and drove 50 miles to school. Mom and Dad were mad at me, and I didn't give a damn. When I graduated, I got a job near Austin and moved into an apartment. I occasionally heard of her when one of my friends mentioned her, but I never saw her. I moved back to Central Texas about 6 months later when one day her father showed up at work when I was out. I saw him standing by my car and started to get ready to head back. After thinking about it, I decided not to delay. This was going to suck. I walked to my car and he looked up when he heard me. "Eric, I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I'm a father and I have no choice. I love my daughter. I know what she did was very stupid. I know she did it twice. The problem is that she really loves you, Eric, and she's miserable. She lost 20 pounds. The first 5 didn't hurt, but she doesn't sleep, hardly eats, and only leaves the house when she hears you come home and thinks she might see you somewhere. Put us out of our misery, Eric. At least talk to her. Maybe we can put this behind us and she can move on with her life. Please, our whole family is suffering." Well, it was as disgusting as I thought it would be. I felt really bad for him. It wasn't his fault, and he was my 6th grade baseball coach. I always really liked him and his wife. "All right, Mr. Peterson," I told him. "I don't know what to make of this. Cindy did that to me once, and I thought I made myself perfectly clear. I never imagined it would come up again. She doesn't think like I do. I don't know how to deal with it. I understand," he nodded. "I even agree with you, but please just talk to her. Listen to what she has to say. That's all I'm asking. Thank you, Eric. I owe you one." "You don't owe me anything, Mr. Peterson," I told him. "You taught me how to play first base. I'm the one who owes you. Tell her I'll come home and pick her up at 6 o'clock on Friday, okay?" We went to Cheddar's and I bought her dinner. I had heard it before several times and I didn't want to hear it again. I knew I was going to hear it whether I wanted to or not. "George is a very nice guy," she said. "Cindy, were you going on a date with me or not?" I asked. "You know I did, honey. She tried to placate me." "It sounds like you had some doubts," I told her. "I saw you two together at Chili's restaurant. You were sitting in the same booth and he had his arm around you." "We're very good friends," she said. "If you get to know him better, you'll like him. I want you two to be friends. We talked about it and I don't do that anymore. I want you and him to be friends." "We're not going to be friends," I told her. "We're not going to date because of your friend." "What? What do you mean?" she stammered. "I'm not going out with you again," I told her. "The first time this happened, I told you that if you were ever alone with him again, it was over between us." "I guess you didn't believe me." "Why are you being such an asshole?" she snapped back. "It was just lunch and a ride home after the soccer game. He's a good guy." "No, he's the asshole," I told her. "You're an asshole too. I don't know what I see in you." This was a bad idea. I stood up and threw the money on the table. I didn't need the change. I walked out the door and headed for my car. I didn't realize she was following me until I pressed the remote button. Luckily, I only pressed it once and the passenger door stayed locked. She tried to open it, but I just got in the car and started it. She ran up and opened my door. "Are you going to leave me here?" she shouted. "I'll call you a cab," I said. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't," I told her. "Maybe you could talk to Cooper. He's such a nice guy." "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't realize you'd be such a jerk. I won't be alone with him anymore." "It's too late," I told her. "It should have happened last time. You have no respect for me or anyone else but a good guy. Have a nice life, Cindy." I called her a cab. See, I'm a good guy if I wasn't an asshole. I didn't see or hear from her for 3 weeks. When I finally went back to my parents' house to spend the weekend, I was ambushed. I guess they'd seen Intervention or Dr. Full. My mom called me on the way home and asked me what time she should plan dinner for. I was in complete ignorance as to the nefarious plans and, like a dummy, told her. They even had the cleverness to park their cars on the next block. When I got home, I grabbed my suitcase and laptop and headed inside. Dad met me in the entryway and took my suitcase. We went upstairs and put my stuff down, and he told me my mom and my sister were in the room. They were in the room, as was Cindy and her parents and Mom's pastor. I must have looked like a complete idiot standing there with my mouth open. The furniture was arranged in a circle with an empty chair for everyone to stare at. My little sister jumped up and ran over to me. She hugged me and kissed me and touched everything like she always did. I loved Chris. She was 15 and she was the sweetest creature you'd ever seen. She took my hand and led me to my throne. It was either that or the electric chair. Pastor Robbins was obviously the spokesperson. I always thought he was a pretentious freak who stands too close to you when he speaks. "Eric, we all have something to say to you, and we're here to listen to you too. We know you're upset and we understand, but we think you're being unreasonable." I looked around and they were all smiling and nodding at me. "I love you, honey, and I want us to be together for the rest of our lives," Cindy said in her softest voice. "Just listen to what we have to say, and then we'll listen to you." It was the father's turn. I wondered if they had planned who would speak and in what order. "Son, did you know that your mom has male friends and I have female friends?" There was silence. "Do you want me to speak?" I asked. They all smiled and nodded. "I didn't know you had an open marriage," I said. "You've been so careful to keep it from me my whole life that I was completely in the dark." The smiles faded a little. I think I'd gone off script. "Are you hanging horns on Dad, Mom?" I never suspected anything. She had the grace to blush. "Why do you say that?" she asked. "There's no need to be rude. That's not what your father meant. We have friends of the opposite sex. We all do." Okay, that was informative. "Is it my turn now?" I asked. Cindy's father spoke up. "Robin and I care for you very much, Eric," he smiled back. "Cindy loves you with all her heart. She's devoted to you, and asking her to give up her friends is simply unreasonable. You're not going to break up with her because Cindy has friends, are you?" There was silence again. "Is it my turn?" I asked. They all smiled and nodded. "Okay, this has been a lot of fun," I said. "I appreciate you all being here to explain things to me. I can see how unreasonable I've been. I just need to go up to my room and think for a few minutes. You all wait here. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. Oh, the bliss on their faces was excruciating. I stood up and Cindy came over and kissed me on the cheek. Chris looked at me cheerfully. I got up and walked up the 3 steps out of the room and then the 7 upstairs to my bedroom. I took my suitcase and Chris took my computer. She followed behind me. We went outside and put them in the trunk. "You're not coming back, are you?" she asked. "No, baby." I hugged her. "I love you, but I'm done with this shit. Call me and I'll pick you up. We'll go somewhere just you and me." "Good, Eric." She kissed me. "I love you too." "I'm sorry they embarrassed you like that." "It's not your fault, honey," I told her. "I'll see you around." I squeezed her one last time and pulled away from the driveway. I rolled down the window. "Take a walk, sweetheart," I told her. "Give me a chance to get out of town." She nodded and walked further down the street. 20 minutes later, the machine informed me of a call. It was Mom. "Hi, Mom," I said. "Where are you?" she asked. "Where's Chris? Is she with you?" "She's taking a walk," I said. "I'm just passing through Hillsborough." She hesitated for a few seconds. "But you said you'd be back soon." "Well, yes, but I've decided not to," I said. "Please feel free to continue without me." "Oh, Mom, from now on, Chris is the only one of you I'll be taking calls from. Don't write, don't visit, don't use your telepathic powers that you obviously possess that tell you how unreasonable I am." "Bye, Mom. Eric, wait," she said. "I love you, darling. Forgive me, I only want what's best for you. Just let me talk to you." "Don't you think I decide for myself what's best for me?" I asked. "Bye, Mom. Maybe you can talk to one of your male friends." I ended the conversation. A minute later, another call rang. I didn't answer. In the next 5 minutes, I got 5 more calls and I didn't answer. The 6th was from Chris. "Hey, kitten, are you in trouble?" I asked. "Sort of," she said. "They made me call you, Eric." A noise was heard and my father's voice rang out. "You should be ashamed," I cut him short. "Maybe my family would be interested in marrying Cindy. They're all so reasonable. Maybe they'd have a big group wedding, except for Chris, of course." Over the next 3 days, I received probably 100 calls. My secretary at work left stacks of messages on my desk every day, morning, afternoon, and evening. I listened to all the voicemails, read all the messages and all the emails. They were very entertaining. Cindy's family was furious, and so was she. My parents, too, at first. I heard almost nothing from my dad, and my mom stopped being angry after the first 5 messages or so. She cried in voicemails, and there were notes of desperation in her messages and emails. After the first hour or 2, she started apologizing. Cindy also became increasingly tearful and apologetic. She begged me to talk to her, to see her, to meet her, to call her, anything. She was going to change. She was going to make it up to me. Things were going to be different. If I didn't like one of her friends, she was never going to meet him again. All I had to do was give her another chance, and all this magic was going to happen. She just didn't get it. I don't think any of them did. I have a code. I have girlfriends who are also women. Since I was in a relationship with Cindy, I didn't spend time alone with them. That's just fraught with trouble. Sure, there were business and social gatherings with women other than Cindy, but I certainly didn't take them out to lunch or dinner and hug them. If they had significant others, we spent time together. If not, we didn't socialize. Why put yourself in a compromising situation? My dad's been telling me that my whole life. You date who you know. You marry the people you date. You do it with the people you're alone with and the people you get into relationships with. It's a conscious choice. All this, I didn't mean for it to happen, or it just happened. Crap makes me want to puke. It's a matter of conscious choice. I chose to be a one-woman man, and my partner chose to be a one-woman woman. If it sounds like I'm inflexible, you're damn right I am. Sue me. Over the next week, I went on a couple dates and had a good time. It was kind of a relief when Cindy wasn't around. It was especially liberating not having to guess where she was or who she was having lunch with. I went back to McKinney and stayed at a hotel that weekend. I picked up Chris to take her to Six Flags. She ran out and jumped in the car when I pulled up. "You should hurry," she said. It was too late. Mom came running from the sidewalk as I started to back up. She jumped on the hood of the car and I just couldn't drive away. I rolled down the window. "What do you want, Mom?" I asked. "Promise me you won't leave until I say so," she said. I sighed. "Okay, I promise. What do you want?" She got up and walked over to the window. She leaned over, put her arms around me, and kissed me. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," she said. Tears stood in her soft brown eyes. "I should have respected you more, Eric. I love you so much, and you're killing me by not talking to me. You are my only son, and I beg you to forgive me. Don't cut me out of your life." I stroked her soft cheek. "What are you doing next Saturday?" I asked her. She looked at me hopefully. "Nothing," she said. "Is there anything you want me to do?" "Why don't I come and get you and Chris?" said I. "I'll take you to IKEA and Round Rock. Mom loved that place. Then we'll take Chris to the outlet stores and have dinner." Her smile was bright and happy. 10 sounds like a good time, she said. "We'll be ready, won't we, Chris?" Chris was excited about outlet stores and much less excited about IKEA, but she wanted to go. We had a great time at Six Flags, and I was looking forward to the next weekend. Work was going well that week. I had just started working and had a pretty steep learning curve to go through. I worked out some problems in the foundry, and Jack patted me on the back. That same week, I met his daughter, Allison. I drove to McKinney and pulled up in the driveway. Mom and Chris came out all happy and animated and jumped in the car. "Eric, I want to apologize to you again," Mom began. "Let's just forget about all this," I said. "Let's go shopping. All the clothes are on me. Mom, if you buy any crappy furniture, I'm not dragging it home." She laughed, and off we went. We stopped for a bite of hamburgers, and it was a good day. I brought home some crappy furniture. They were just lamps, but I told her she would be putting them together herself. The instructions that came with them were written by professional confusers. On Monday, on my way home, I stopped at my favorite bar for a beer, and when I walked up the stairs to my apartment, there was Cindy sitting on the top step. I almost turned around and left. Then I got mad. This was my home, and I wasn't going to let her chase me away. I sighed and continued upstairs. I wondered what she was doing there in the middle of the week. She was in her last year of school to become a physician's assistant. "May I come in and talk to you?" she asked. "What do you want, Cindy?" I asked. I thought it was clear by now. "Yes," she said. "I want to make it dirty." I had to smile. I kind of liked the clarity, I told her. I sighed. She was here, so I might as well get it over with. I opened the door and stepped aside so she could walk past. I sat down on the couch and she placed a chair in front of me. "I want another chance," she said. "Well, that's not going to happen," I said. "Why does everyone but me get one?" she asked. I wasn't going to date anyone, I told her. They regretted what they did and apologized. "Me too," she said. "I've apologized 1,000,000 times. I'm sorry, Eric." "I had no idea you felt the way you do. How can I make it up to you? I'll do anything." "What the hell do you mean by I had no idea how you felt?" I asked. "I told you exactly how I felt." "I was stupid," she said. "I couldn't believe you really meant it. It sounded so unreasonable that I couldn't believe you were serious." I threw up my hands. "Do you have any idea how sick the word unreasonable makes me? Maybe I am unreasonable. It's just the way I am. I'm happy in my unreasonableness. If you're not, there's the door." I don't think it's unreasonable of me to expect my girl not to have dinner alone with other men or go to games with them. It seems like common sense to me. If it's unreasonable, then that's the way I am. I understand now, she said. What can I do to make it up to you? What can I do so we can be together? Cindy didn't look well. Her usually bright hair was somehow dull and lifeless, and she looked gaunt. She looked like she was about to cry. Her eyes were full of tears. I swear to God, if you start crying, I'm going to get up and kick you out of here, I told her. She snorted a few times and blotted her eyes with a tissue. Eric, I'm so sorry, she said. I didn't plan for this to happen. I didn't go to the game with him. I went with my girlfriends and he was just there. We were all talking and having a good time. He was going to give me a ride to my dorm. That's all that happened. Okay, I believe you, I said. So why don't you want to talk to me? She seemed puzzled. I'll talk to you about anything but you and me, I told her. I didn't think you wanted to talk about anything else. I don't understand, she mulled. I want to talk about you and me. If you don't believe I went there to meet him, what's the big deal? You drove off with him, I told her. My girlfriends don't ride in cars alone with other men. I realize it's work, and I'm not unreasonable enough to care about it. I thought I made that clear. I don't spend time alone with other women, and I don't let my girlfriends spend time alone with other men. You've been reading the Cheater's Manual again, Cindy. It was just a trip, she protested. How did you get to the game? I asked her. With Julia, she said. Why didn't you go with Julia? I asked. For a minute, she sat stunned. I don't know, she said. Yes, I told her. He cut you out of the herd and left you alone. That's how it starts. You let him do it. You knew that if you ever thought about it, I wouldn't like it. There. Now I realize it, she said. I've been stupid. But I can learn, Eric. Now I see where you're going with this. I didn't realize. Do guys really do that? How did we end up together? I asked her. You asked me if I wanted a snack after lab, she said. Who were you with? I asked her. Julia and Robin, you've cut me out of the herd, haven't you? That's exactly right. That's how it works. I have you alone. It's just the two of us, and that's how it works. That's how romances start. That's exactly what Cooper wanted. I let him, didn't I? Yes, Cindy, it is. I can't live with that. I can't always be there to make sure you don't go off alone with some man. That's your job, and you're not handling it well. I'm so sorry, she said. I didn't realize what was going on. It makes sense now. He's been calling me ever since. Eric, if you give me another chance, this will never happen again. I gave you another chance, I said. You blew it. Yes, but I didn't understand, she said. I couldn't understand why you were reacting that way. I understand now. I'm not going to let it happen again. All right, suppose I believe you. What now? Asked I. Will you go out with me on Friday? She asked. She didn't raise her eyes to me. Okay, what time? I asked. I still didn't trust her. And that didn't change until I accidentally overheard the conversation. I was coming home from work and went into the grocery store to buy a couple of bottles of wine. The wine department had high racks that were impossible to look through. As I turned to the department I wanted, I saw a couple guys on the other aisle. One of them was George Cooper. They were talking louder than they should. What happened to that hottie you had on the line? A guy I didn't know asked. You mean Cindy asked Cooper? Yeah, she was smoking, the other guy said. She has a douchebag boyfriend, Cooper said. I was just about to close the deal and he saw us together. He made a scene and now she won't even talk to me. It won't be for long. I'm going to keep calling her and eventually wear her down. I'm going to do it some more. She says she's never going to talk to me again, but I'm not giving up. That surprised me. Cindy kept her word and I was impressed. She had her chance and she passed the test. It made it much easier for me to move on. I dealt with Cooper too. It's hard to call women when your right arm is in a cast. He had another red shirt year and lost his scholarship. That was 27 years ago, and until about age 5, she was true to her word. Then someone gave her a book. It was something about her needs, his needs, and Cindy was fascinated by the book. Suddenly, all this psycho babble about getting in touch with our feelings came pouring out of her mouth. She explained it all to me. Men and women are different. I was shocked. Who would have thought? Who buys this crap? Do I really have to pay $29.99 for someone to point out the obvious? I was pretty sure I had known this since the first time I saw the girl. There was all this crap about how men don't understand women. that they often live in deprivation because their men don't understand or care about their needs, and that they can take charge of their lives by letting us know they need emotional fulfillment. She had all these great ideas about what we should do. We spent hours talking about nonsense and carefully organized and bonding meetings. We acquired a bookshelf filled with the most pointless and stupid books imaginable. We watched boring and stupid movies designed to make me realize my callousness and insensitivity. She would highlight passages from stupid books for me to read. The insanity became more and more extreme. Most of the wise advice she received and disseminated seemed to have one goal. Women need emotional fulfillment, and their husband is incapable of providing it. However, if he truly loves her, he will support and encourage her on her journey to find emotional security, and only then can she find true happiness. This is what she has been striving for the past 5 years. As far as I knew, her behavior hadn't changed. She went out with groups without me, spent a lot of time in her circle of other sympathetic women, but was never alone with other men. I lived by the same rule. We both understood emergencies, work, and family, but never went alone with members of the opposite sex for fun. Until that day, apparently, I had no idea how long it had been going on. "Daddy, land to Daddy!" Olivia tugged on my hand. I put my arms around her. "Hey, baby, sorry, I got a little distracted. Olivia, these ladies are Samantha and Cecilia. Samantha's hurt. Can you help them?" "Where's Mom?" she asked. "That's a good question," I said. "I'll want to talk to you about it later. Can you get Samantha cleaned up?" "Sure," she said, turning around and looking back at Samantha. "So why are you here with the ignoramus?" She nodded in my direction. "He's helping me, and you should be more respectful of your father," Samantha told her. Olivia snorted. "Well, he's not respectable at all, so that's out of the question. But I love him with all my heart. Is that enough?" Samantha's eyes sparkled. "I can see that, dear. He's been so good to me. He brought me here in his truck, put me in this nice room with such nice nurses, and I'm so grateful to him." "You don't need to stay any longer, Mr. Hollister. Dr. Olivia and Cecilia will take care of me. It was nice to meet you, Samantha, but if you call me Mr. Hollister one more time, I'll take you back." I smiled. "My name is Eric. I'll be checking you out. I have your groceries in my truck." "What do you want me to do with them?" "You can—" "No, I can't ask you to." "Can't ask what?" I asked. Cecilia spoke up. "Could you take them to our house? We can't afford to have them spoiled. Her grandson is there. He'll let you in." She led me out into the hallway and gave me the address. I turned to leave, and she said quietly, "Eric, I'm so grateful to you for helping Grandma." She stood on her tiptoes, kissed my cheek, hugged me, and snuggled up to me. "You're a very good person." I patted her on the shoulder and went outside. When I walked out of the emergency room door, I saw Cindy and Pierce hurrying toward the entrance. There was a large concrete column between me and them, and I could hear them talking. "This is really bad, Elliot," Cindy said. "It's really bad." "God, I hope he's still there. We've got to make this right. We'll tell him we planned a board meeting. He can't find out about us." "I'm not ready yet." "He's too stupid to realize it," Pierce said. "He doesn't have the slightest clue." "You're wrong," she said. "He's smarter than any of us. Our only hope was that he wouldn't suspect anything. Don't forget we were planning a board meeting. I'll have Julia say she was there. Talk about a shock. I must have been really stupid. I didn't suspect a thing. I walked to the truck in a daze. I walked 2 blocks before I decided to check the address Cecilia had given me. I was going the wrong way. I rounded the block and then my phone rang. It was Cindy. I didn't answer it. I found the address. It was a small white frame house with a nice vinyl fence around it. I picked up the groceries and carried them to the door. When I rang the bell, a slender black guy answered. "Are you Samantha Grove's grandson?" I asked him. "Yes. What can I do for you?" he asked. His voice was somehow high and breathy, and my gay radar went off immediately. She was in an accident, and I brought her groceries home. I told him. She wasn't badly hurt, but she broke her arm and got a little scratched up. Your sister asked me to bring this. "I have no sister," he said. "If you mean Cecilia, she's my cousin." "Sorry, my bad," I said. "Would you mind putting the groceries away for her?" "Yes, I can." He looked me over from head to toe. "Would you like to come in?" "No, I have to run," I told him anxiously. "Wait, are the balls broken?" They were, and I promised her more eggs. That gave me an excuse to come back when Samantha was there. Now I had things to do. I went to Julius's house, but she was home. She looked shocked when she saw me at the door. "Paul's not here," she said nervously. "I wanted to talk to you anyway," I told her. At that time, Paul pulled into the driveway. "Well, I guess he's already here," I said. He jumped out of the car and grabbed his briefcase from the back seat. "Hey, buddy," he called out. "Let's grab a beer and sit on the porch. It's a nice evening. Julia, honey, could you get me and Eric a couple beers?" We sat down on the porch, and Julia came out and handed us a couple bottles of Paul's home brew. He makes really good beer. It was a nice pale ale. She started to walk back into the house, and I caught her arm. "Julia, I told you I wanted to talk to you," I told her. She looked nervously at Paul. "I'm making dinner," she said. "Can I talk to you later?" "I think now would be a good time," I told her. "I don't want to give you time to make up a story." She burst into tears. "Don't make me tell you, Eric," she begged. "She's been my friend since 2nd grade. I don't want to get involved." Paul was angry at me or her. I couldn't tell which. "What the hell is going on here?" he asked. "Somebody better tell me something quick." "Cindy's having an affair with Piers," I told him. "Julia's covering for her. There's more to it, but I don't know what it is yet." "Julia, is it true?" he asked. "Yeah, no, I won't cover for her. I told her I won't," Julia sobbed. "This has nothing to do with me. I'm so sorry, Eric. I wanted to tell you, but you were so happy and I love you so much. I didn't know how. I didn't have time to figure out what I needed to do. I didn't have a chance to figure anything out. I didn't want you to get hurt." I stood up and hugged her. "I know, Julia, I don't blame you. I'd be really upset if you lied for her. I'm sorry you got caught up in this. You don't deserve anything like this. I'll make it up to you somehow. It might take me a while." She sobbed against my chest. "I'm so sorry, Eric. I don't know what's wrong with her. She's acting crazy. Maybe she'll come to her senses." "Do you know how long this has been going on?" I asked her. "No, I first heard about it when she called me an hour ago." She said she acted like it had been going on for a while. "Well, I apologize again, Julia. Paul, I didn't mean to drag you into this. I just knew she was trying to get Julia to lie for her. I had to see for myself." "If there's anything we can do, just ask us, Eric," he said. "You know we'll be there for you." "Know any good divorce lawyers?" I chuckled. "Actually, yes," he said. "My partner is a family law specialist. You should talk to her if you decide to go that route." I thanked them and apologized again. I drove home hating the thought of going inside. Cindy wouldn't be there, but Olivia would be. What was I supposed to say? I wondered if she knew and was covering for her mother. I'm going to have to find out. It would just kill me. I wasn't enough pain as it was. On the way home, I called her and told her I would get chicken for dinner. The Popeyes happily agreed, and we sat down at the table and ate. She told me about Samantha. She was given painkillers and a cast, and Cecilia took her home. We chatted for a while, but there was no way I was going to start. I wasn't even sure I wanted to know. She finished cleaning up the rest of the food, and I just picked her up in my arms and carried her to the couch, sitting her down and cuddling her. She looked up at me and saw tears streaming down my cheeks. "Daddy, what's wrong?" she asked. "Why are you acting so strange?" "Livy, I always called her that when she was little. You know I love you very much, don't you?" "Yes, I love you too," she said. "You're starting to scare me, Daddy. You're not sick or anything, are you?" I had to laugh. "No, baby, I'm not sick. Is there anything you want to tell me about your mother? I know you two work together." She looked me in the face with the bottomless blue pools of her eyes. "You know, don't you, Daddy?" she said quietly. "Yeah, I found out about it today." I said, "Why didn't you tell me, baby?" She began to cry. "Because I had no proof," she said. "I suspected it. I asked her about it, and she just laughed at me. She said I was talking nonsense and that she didn't want to hear anything like that again. I couldn't prove anything except that they were disappearing at weird times and acting weird around each other." "What are you going to do, Daddy?" "I guess that's up to her." I said, "I'm going to confront her too. I'm not going to listen to lies. If she lies, we're finished. We're probably finished anyway. I don't know how to handle this, honey. Will you help me? I'm ready to die for you, Daddy." She hugged me tightly. "I'm on your side. She lies and cheats. I won't stand for it. The thought of my mother lying to me just kills me, and the thought of her doing that to you makes me even angrier." "I want to slap her." "Yeah, me too," I grinned. "I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want you to get violent either. We need to take it easy, okay?" "Yeah, I know, but I'm still pretty pissed," she said. "We should change the locks on the door or something." "Sounds like fun," I laughed. I'm afraid it will be temporary. She might get the law to let her back in. We'll see what happens when I meet her. I want to be there, she said. It's my family too. Okay, we'll just sit here and I'll hold you until she gets home, okay? We cried together for a long time. I felt like my life was crashing down around me, and I don't know what I would do if my baby girl wasn't by my side. It was still more painful than anything I had ever experienced, but I knew that Olivia and I would be together. In the end, we just cried it out. We made some adjustments to our living arrangements and began to wait. She got up, got us each a scoop of ice cream, and we watched the movie until we saw the headlights of Cindy's car come on in the driveway. She looked very nervous when she walked into the house and saw us. Olivia was still by my side, wrapping her arms around my neck. Cindy tried to wave me away. "Hey, you've been waiting," she said. She walked over and tried to kiss Olivia, but she held up her hand. "Leave it alone, Mom." She practically spat at her. "We all know. Don't try to pretend everything's okay. Eric, can I talk to you alone for a few minutes?" Cindy started to stalk toward the bedroom. Noticing that I wasn't moving from my spot, she stopped. "Just a few minutes," she said. "No, we're fine," I told her. "What do you think you're doing, Cindy?" She came back and sat down in the club chair across from us. I saw her square her shoulders and take a deep breath. "I have a relationship with Elliot Pierce," she said. "It has nothing to do with us, Eric. There's nothing wrong with us. It's something completely separate from our marriage. I'm not leaving you or anything like that. It's just something I need. I can talk to Elliot and we have an emotional connection. We've talked about everything. You won't notice the difference in our lives. I won't neglect you. This is just between me and him. I need something else. I've been very happy with you, but I need something different than what you're giving me." Olivia laughed. "Yeah, like that's going to happen. Be realistic, Mom." "Olivia, this has nothing to do with you," Cindy said. "It only has to do with your father and me." "So when are you moving in?" I asked Cindy. "What are you talking about?" she asked. "I'm not moving out. Why would I move out?" "Well, you need a new place to live," I told her. "After the divorce, we're going to have to sell this house. Olivia and I need to find another place." "What divorce?" she asked. "We're not getting a divorce. I don't want a divorce. I don't care what you want," I told her. "The complete lack of respect you just showed me and your daughter just led you to this. What the hell have I said or done in the last 27 years to make you think I would agree to this? No, we're getting a divorce, Cindy. I predict it's going to be long and nasty. And after the divorce, you're in for a long, nasty, single life. Why are you acting like this? Why can't you just accept that I have needs that aren't being met?" she complained. "It doesn't have to affect us at all. We're not going to get divorced. I love you, and I want to be with you for the rest of our lives." "Well, too bad you don't always get what you want," I said. "I want to have a wife who doesn't sleep with that creep Pierce. Did I get what I wanted? Did anyone ask me if I wanted to get sloppy seconds with that asshole? I don't remember that conversation. Eric, I want to be a whore. You don't mind, do you? When did we have this conversation? Did you hear that conversation, Livy?" "No, I didn't hear that," she said. "Did you really tell Daddy you wanted to be a whore, Mom?" "This is ridiculous," Cindy stood up. "I can see that neither of you are adults. When you grow up, we can talk. If you're just going to insult me, we can just not talk." "Okay, I don't like listening to whores anyway," Olivia said. "When are you leaving, Mom? I've always wanted Daddy to be alone. He's adorable." "I'm not going anywhere," Cindy shouted. "Stop saying that." "Oh, you're going somewhere," I told her. "To hell, I hope. Maybe they have a rogue wing. I predict you'll be gone in a week. You imagine you're a virtuous, good man and act so sensible and so loving, but you're not. Now that we all know what you are, you can't bear our presence. You're just a rotten person, Cindy. You have no concept of right and wrong. We all know that now. I'm going to tell all our friends, our family, the people you work with, everyone. I'm going to enjoy it." "How long do you think you can stand it?" "You won't tell anyone," she said. "It would be too awkward for you. You just need time to get used to the idea that you're going to be very happy. You won't be hurt in the slightest, I promise. I love you, Eric, and I'll do anything to make you happy." Olivia burst into laughter. "You really don't get it, do you? You have no idea how evil you are. All you do is shit on our entire family, your husband, and your marriage. No, you won't make him anything but miserable. His happiness is now my project." I couldn't help but squeeze her in gratitude. I had to vent some of my spleen. "Cindy, do you remember George Cooper?" Her face went pale. It's George Cooper, but the permanent one. Good luck with the rest of your life. You might even meet him again. You don't seem to be too picky about the people you sleep with." "You bastard," she said. "How can you talk about that? It's not like that at all, and you're the only man I've ever slept with." "I didn't sleep with Elliot." Olivia and I looked at each other. I was kind of shocked. The question was, did I believe her? And the other question was, did it matter? I decided it didn't. "So what's holding you back?" I asked her. "Yes," she said, "I need you to accept it. Elliot and I have talked about it. If you really love me, you'll be happy for me that I found such an emotional outlet. He doesn't mind that I love you and that I would never leave you. It's just meeting my emotional needs." Olivia was hysterical. "Oh my God!" she gasped. She couldn't stop laughing. "Mom, I never knew you were like this. Where did you get this nonsense from? Did that evil creep Elliot put that nonsense in your head? God, I hope I didn't get any genes from you." Cindy blushed, and I thought she was about to explode with rage. "Olivia, you can go to your room," she said. "I won't have you disrespecting me like that." "Are you crazy?" I asked Olivia. "I'm 25 years old. I'm a grown woman. You can't send me to my room. I pay my house payment every 3 months, just like you. I have my own wing. Why don't you go to your room?" "Oh, wait. That's Daddy's room. Maybe we'll let you stay in one of the guest bedrooms until the divorce. I hate cheaters, and you're one of them. I hope that bastard was worth it. You know he molested every woman in the hospital, including your daughter?" "That's just a lie," shouted Cindy. "He loves me. You're just making this up to hurt me. Why are you guys such assholes? Don't you want me to be satisfied and happy?" I needed to deal with this before things got out of hand. "Cindy, you're digging your own grave every time you open your mouth," I told her. "You should stop talking. I accept that you need to be realized and happy. There's the door. Chase your dreams. You need to give up the idea that you can have your cake and need it too. You're a deal breaker, Cindy. If being with me was part of your self-actualization, you just threw that away. Maybe you can be realized with Pierce. I don't know. He looks like he's hard to fulfill with anything. He's an anemic little shit. He's getting ready to be unemployed. Maybe after the divorce he'll have a pot to piss in, but I doubt it. I think his wife is smart enough to get a prenup. I'm sure her father is too. I too would be surprised if you keep your job. Her father is the president of the AMA in this state. When they find out what the two of you do, it could get ugly." "We haven't done anything," she protested. "There's no reason for any of this. You lied to me, tried to get Juliet alive for you, planned to hang horns on me along with that miserable bastard, and showed professional dishonesty. None of you were on duty when the emergency you were supposed to be covering arose. I don't think the board would approve that. Both of you could lose your license." "We didn't do anything wrong," she began to panic. "It looked like the script they developed was going off the rails. Besides, I don't believe you weren't having fun with him," Olivia said. "You lied about everything else. I didn't have sex with him." "I'm not lying," she said. "Why should we believe anything you say?" I asked her. "At least you were going to. This is just as bad. You see what the problem is? We don't believe you. That's what happens when you start lying. Nobody believes anything you say. Worse, you tried to get Juliet to lie for you. I heard you planning those lies, Cindy. I think you should go see if Pierce has any more good ideas." "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "You'll probably change the locks while I'm gone." Olivia and I looked at each other and almost choked with laughter. Cindy had no idea what we were laughing about, but she didn't like it one bit. "I don't know what you find funny about this situation, but I don't find anything funny about it," she muttered. "No, it's an inside joke," I said. "The situation isn't funny, it's pathetic." "You're pathetic, Cindy. Now back off. Olivia and I were doing something." She was yelling and crying and freaking out, but Olivia just kept turning up the volume on the TV. We have an amazing sound system, and we just ignored her. Finally, she went into the kitchen and heated up some chicken. She came back and tried to sit on the couch with us, but we moved to my big chair. Finally, she got fed up. "Fine," she shouted through the TV. "Just act like a couple of spoiled brats. I'm going to bed." When she reached the bedroom door, she found it locked. Olivia turned off the television for a moment. "Your stuff is in the blue room," she said affectionately. "That's Daddy's room." She turned up the volume again, and Cindy just stood there watching us, and then she walked out into the hallway. When she closed the door, I kissed Olivia, and we went to bed. In the morning, I left for work before they got up, but nothing was happening there. Jack was in a meeting and left an order for me to take the day off. That was good because I had an appointment with Paul's partner. Her name was Jasmine Albright, and she was one hell of an impressive lady. She was in her early 40s, and she just radiated class. Tall, slender, swarthy, with a mane of blonde hair, she was just gorgeous. She was smart as a whip and got me cleaned up pretty quickly. The rest of the day, I ran around town doing all the weird things she wanted me to do. I visited the bank, the insurance agency, the HR department at work, and our investment advisor. I sat on the phone for ages, talking to people who didn't understand English, getting credit cards changed, policies amended, and a million other things. I was exhausted. I had one more stop to make. I went to the grocery store and bought 3 dozen eggs. I took them to Samantha's house, and Cecilia opened the door. I was struck again by how beautiful she was. She was so tiny and cute. She looked to be about 14, but I knew she was in her 2nd semester of college. The slender boy was absent, and I was glad for that. Cecilia gave me a hug and invited me in. I walked into Starbucks and bought 3 coffees and 3 poppy seed muffins. Samantha was reading a magazine in a comfortable chair in the living room, and her face lit up at the sight of me. She tried to get up, but I hurried over and knelt beside her chair. I put my arms around her, and she kissed me on the cheek. The 3 of us sat there drinking coffee and eating muffins, talking. Samantha was feeling much better and couldn't stop telling me how much she loved Olivia. We talked about Cecilia's schoolwork. She wanted to be an educational administrator. She was going to transfer to a 4-year school after graduating from a community college and was working hard to get a scholarship. I was spontaneously admiring her. She had huge brown eyes and a small face. Her hair was just a curly mop about a foot long and covered her right eye most of the time. One tiny ear was visible, and it was pointed like an elf's. In general, she looked like someone's fantasy drawing of a magical creature. She caught my gaze a couple times, but only smiled and winked. I stayed for half an hour and kissed them both goodbye. I promised that I would visit them again soon, and as I left, I felt that I had made 2 good friends. I decided that I would visit them often and see if they needed anything. They didn't mention any men in their lives, and a slender young man didn't seem very comfortable to me. Olivia was home when I arrived, and I invited her over for a barbecue. I told her about my day, and she said Pierce had taken Cindy somewhere for a long time. I guess they were planning their strategy. Well, I was executing mine, and everything was going well. We both went to bed before Cindy got home. She knocked on the bedroom door, but I put in my earplugs and just went to bed. In the morning, I left, and there was a note on the table for me. She decided we needed to talk and asked me to wait for her that night. Work was back to normal, but I was out of sorts. Allison came in to discuss some sales-related issues, and I couldn't concentrate. The 3rd time she had to shake me up, she asked what was going on with me. "I'm sorry, Allie. I'm not at my best today," I told her. "Well, you'd better go over there," she said. "What's the problem?" "I'm getting a divorce," I told her. Her jaw dropped. "What the hell, Eric? What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," I said. "Well, I may have done a lot of things, but Cindy came home and announced that she was in a relationship with that creep Pierce. It won't affect our marriage in any way. She'll make sure I'm not unhappy, but she has to fulfill her needs." "Jesus Christ!" she exploded. "What the hell does that even mean?" "I have no idea," I told her. "She was talking some crap about emotional fulfillment. She insists she hasn't slept with him, but she's going to. And if I love her, I should let her be happy." She got up and walked over to the bar. She poured us each a couple fingers of her good bourbon, came back and sat down. "Allison is one of the most beautiful women I've ever met. She just screams sensuality every time you look at her. It's almost impossible to put into words. Her body is just perfect. She'd chews up men like a shark, chews up a bait fish. I was always about half afraid of her, but she didn't hate it and became probably my best friend. There was always tension between us, but we dealt with it. She was also Olivia's best friend. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "You're not planning any stupid revenge plans, are you?" I laughed. "No, I just want to get this over with and move on. I've wasted too much time as it is. I just don't care, Allie. I'm just tired. I'm too old and too numb to conspire. I'm going to take Pierce down, but I'm not going to kick his ass or anything. I'm not going to do anything illegal. His ass isn't a bind, but he doesn't know it. I don't care about him enough to kick his ass." I was wrong, but I didn't know it at the time. I really believed that if they had just left me alone, everything would have been fine. Allison spent the rest of the day with me, and it was very good for my ego. She made me promise to take her out to dinner Friday night, and I headed home. When I opened the door, there was a lot of yelling inside. Cindy and Pierce were sitting on the couch, and Olivia was standing in front of them, reading them a funeral prayer. She poked her finger at his chest, and he made the mistake of brushing her hand away. Before he realized what hit him, she grabbed his hair and pulled his nose down to meet her rising knee. The nose didn't win in this fight, so I pulled him out the door by his hair. When we got to the porch, Olivia kicked him in the ribs, and I pulled him against me and threw him off the porch into a barberry bush. He squealed like he'd been mauled to death by house cats and was writhing on the ground. The thorns scratched him bloody, and he crawled to the curb and got into a parked car. When he got out of there, he burned his tires, and I looked at Olivia. She burst into laughter, and we separated in different directions there on the porch. Cindy wasn't laughing. "I can't believe you did that," she shouted. "We came here to have a civilized conversation, and you acted like savages. I can't believe you did this to this nice man. You didn't even give him a chance. You would have liked him if you had just given him a chance." "I gave him a chance," I told her. "I didn't kill him, so he has a chance to start running when he sees me." "Back off, Cindy." "Baby, do you want to go to a movie?" I asked Olivia. We cleaned up, changed clothes as Cindy stood in the hallway looking at us rapturously, and went for a walk. We watched a really bad movie that Olivia loved and I hated and went to eat wings. When we got home, Cindy was gone. Maybe something urgent had happened at the hospital involving the removal of the barbs. Friday night, I took Allison out to dinner and we went to the club. My conscience was clear. My marriage was over. She was an amazing dancer and gave me all I could handle. Guys were always asking her to dance, and she said she wouldn't dare come unaccompanied. I volunteered to accompany her any time. "There aren't many hot women on my social calendar," I told her. She grinned. "Well, I'll agree with you. I've had a crush on you since I was 15, you know." "Yeah, I've noticed you pining," I laughed. "I've been scared to death of you since you turned 15. "I know," she said. "I would never hurt you. You know that, don't you, Eric?" "I know, honey," I told her. "I'm not really that afraid of you. You're very loyal to the ones you love. If I found the right guy, I'd be very devoted to him, too." She nuzzled her face into my chest as we danced. "That person could be you, Eric." "I'm honored, Allie," I told her. "I'm really upset right now. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. Remind me again when you decide I'm healthy, okay?" "Count on it," she said. "Take me home, Eric, before I attack you. I hope my batteries are in good shape today." We laughed, and I drove her home. She pounced on me at the door, and it was the hottest kiss of my life. She didn't try to continue it, and I was grateful. My bruised ego felt much better after that. When I got home, Cindy was still awake and trying to start something, but I felt too good to listen to her ramblings. I went to bed, closing the door behind me. I didn't feel like getting up on Saturday morning. I lay in bed and tried to make plans for the day. Finally, I got up and Cindy made coffee. I ate a brownie and drank a cup. She came in and said we needed to talk. "No, we don't need to talk," I told her. "Every word you say just makes me angrier. You need to stop talking. Where do you want to get the papers?" "My lawyer told me the papers will be ready on Monday. Do you want them handed to you at work or here?" "I'm tearing up these papers," she said. "Why can't you understand that I don't want a divorce?" "Yes, you do want a divorce," I told her. "Everything you've done since you started having fun with Pierce has been heading toward that inevitable end. If you didn't want a divorce, you wouldn't have started this shit." "Maybe I made a mistake," she said. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. I don't want to lose you, Eric. I didn't think you'd react this way." "You knew perfectly well I'd react this way," I told her. "What made you think differently? Think back to the last time you pulled something like that." "We were just immature kids then," she said. "I thought you were more mature now." "Yes," I told her, "and you don't. Mature people don't act like you do. Hell, Olivia is more mature than you. All people are more mature than you. And you act like you're in high school. It's hopeless. You're hopeless. Why don't you go hang out with Pierce? You two seem to be alike." I went outside and started the lawnmower. She sat on the deck and watched me while I mowed the backyard. When I opened the gate and started mowing the front yard, she sat on the porch and watched. I got out the weed knife and trimmed everything, and Olivia came out and went swimming. She sunbathed for a while, and I went into the house and took a shower. I put on my swim trunks, grabbed a couple beers, and headed over to her place. We had a few water fights. sat on the edge of the pool, drank beer, and had a little father-daughter interaction. She had a date that night, and I wondered what I could do to get my mind off Cindy. I called Cecilia and asked if I could bring dinner for her and Samantha. She seemed to love the idea, and I cooked most of the day. I'm a pretty good cook, and I put my best foot forward. Cindy asked me twice what I was cooking, but I just ignored her. I packed a cooler and a basket and drove to their house. Cecilia helped me, and we heated some things up and opened one of the bottles of wine I had brought. They were very impressed with my cooking skills. I even made a chocolate cake, and it was one of my best attempts. They seemed like old friends to me. I felt very comfortable with them, and we talked about nothing and everything. Cecilia asked me if I wanted to go for a walk, and as full as I was, it seemed like a good idea. We started walking, and she quickly put her little brown hand in my big one. I felt like I was walking with a little girl. She was bouncing and chattering like a little girl, too. She was absolutely adorable and very sweet. I put my arms around her and pulled her close to me. She wrapped her arms around my waist and pressed her hip against my thigh as we walked. It made me very sad. I remembered all the walks I'd taken with Cindy that went like this. Cecilia must have sensed something wrong because she looked over to me. "Are you okay, Eric?" she asked. "It has nothing to do with my current company," I told her. "It's something else. I don't want to ruin the mood. I really enjoy spending time with you and Samantha. I'm a very good listener," she said. "My wife told me last week that she's having an affair with another man," I said. "She says she hasn't slept with him yet. I don't believe her, but the idea that I have to put up with this because she needs it just boggles my mind. This is what she told me. It has nothing to do with us. I just need to be emotionally fulfilled and happy." "Oh my God," exclaimed Cecilia. "Eric, I'm sorry, but she looks like an idiot. How long have you been married?" 27 years, I told her. "I don't know if I've just been blind and stupid all this time or if she suddenly went crazy. I needed to get away from her and I lashed out at you. I'm sorry." "Nonsense," she said. "You can impose on me anytime you want. I really, really like you, Eric." "What are you going to do?" "At this rate, I'm going to divorce her," I said. "She doesn't see anything wrong with what she's doing, and I can't be married to someone who doesn't see anything wrong with it. No mean either." "I'm so sorry, Eric. I can't imagine what you're feeling right now." "It's not right now that it's bothering me," I admitted. "I'm with you, and you make me forget about my problems for a while. Being with you and Samantha makes me feel like there's a normal place in the world where I can just look in and feel like I belong. I know I have friends and people who care about me. Thank you, Cecilia." She looked up at me and turned, wrapping her arms around me, snuggling against me with her tiny body and burying her face in my chest. "I'm here anytime you need me," she said. "I'll never forget what you did for Grandma. She asks me every day if I've seen the hospital bill. You didn't have to pay for her, but you did. You will always be special to us. Eric, I know you're confused right now. Just let me know when you sorted it out, okay? Then I'll have something to tell you." We walked and talked for 2 hours sitting on benches. Sometimes she would snuggle up to me and her little palm would be clasped in mine. I learned that her mother was a drug addict and sold her body to get drugs. She had died of hepatitis 5 years earlier, and Cecilia had been living with Samantha since her mother died. The slender young man I met was her cousin. Her mother's brother had followed a similar path, but died of a gunshot wound. Her cousin's name was Ty, and as I suspected, he was gay. He had his own apartment, but was seen quite often. I loved talking to her. She was smart and funny, and you could bond with her. But that didn't happen for a while. I was too frustrated and too wound up to even think about a romantic interest. We were walking back, and Samantha offered me another cup of coffee. I took it, and we talked for a bit before I headed home. Olivia was home by then, and we sat together on the couch while she told me about her date. Cindy came in and sat down. I guess she wanted to listen, but Olivia stopped talking and just stared at her. "What?" asked Cindy. "I'm interested in my daughter's life." "You shouldn't get too carried away," Olivia said. "You're not going to be in it for very long. Don't you have somewhere to go? Surely Pierce would want you to socialize with his children. He must be lonely, poor, sweet man. Maybe you should go and comfort him, and Daddy and I will console ourselves by talking about our family, which you've tried with all your might to destroy." Of course, this made her angry, and she spent a long time yelling about how selfish we are and that no one cares about her and what she needs. "Cindy, you seem to care about yourself and what you need in isolation," I told her. "You don't need any help. We're going out to dinner. Where are we going?" she asked. Well, me and Olivia, I told her. You can date Pierce. She screamed for a long time before we left. It was interesting to me that she just kept yelling. After we got home, Olivia and I played Trivial Pursuit, and she tried to play with us. She made popcorn, asked if we wanted it, and just mocked us until we went to bed. When I went to work on Monday, I was so normal that I even managed to get some things done. When I got home, Cindy was waiting for me. She had Monday off and was obviously busy. When Olivia walked in, dinner was already on the table. She had cooked everything she could, and it was delicious. She always knew how to cook. She tried to make normal conversation, but we mostly ignored her. I went and met Allison at the bar, and we talked for a while and played pool. She's a pool shark, too, and she took me up on it. Olivia called me around 8 and asked me to meet her at the Riverside Hotel. She said it was very important, but she didn't say why, just that it was important and I should hurry. Allison wanted to come, and as we pulled up, I saw Olivia's dart across the street. She came over and sat Allison next to me as she got into the car. "Hi, Allie," she said. "Dad, Mom left right after you did. She was on the phone, and I think she was talking to Pierce. I followed her, and they came here. They checked into a room and stayed there for about 20 minutes. I have the evidence. We argued about it for a long time. Allison thought it was stupid and dangerous, and I really didn't want to know." Olivia turned the argument around by saying that if Cindy tried to resist the divorce, I could threaten her with a video. That seemed reasonable to me, and Allison came around too. I went to the counter and asked the guy what room my wife was in. I told him I had to meet her, and he checked my ID and gave me a key card. We stopped in front of the door, and Olivia had the camera ready. When we opened the door, Cindy and Pierce were having fun. She jumped to her feet and screamed as Olivia watched. "What the hell are you doing here?" she shouted. "This is a private room. We were just leaving," I told her. "Well, so much for I didn't have sex with him." "You made me do it," she shouted. "You made me do it. If you hadn't been such an asshole, everything would have been so nice and loving. No, you had to be a hard asshole." "Hi, Cindy," Allison said. "Some women like pathetic whims." She took my hand. "And I like strong, tall. Get your hands off my husband," screamed Cindy. We turned and walked away, and I closed the door. We walked back to the truck, and I was in a sort of daze. Allison got behind the wheel, and Olivia followed us to Freddy's. We sat down to a cocktail, and they started talking. They noticed I was quiet, and they moved closer to me. "Eric, I know it's bad, but it's not the end of the world," Allison said. "You're going to be okay? You have people who love you. I love you. Olivia loves you. Everything is going to be okay. I know things look bad, but I have news for you that will change everything. I'll tell you tomorrow at work. You have a meeting with your dad at 10 o'clock. It'll shake things up a bit, but it's just what you need right now. Take me back to the car." I stepped out between two of the most beautiful girls on the planet, and I felt good. Not so much that everything felt good, but good nonetheless. I took Allie back to the bar and headed home. Olivia was waiting for me, and we talked for a while. About an hour later, Cindy came in. "I stopped for gas on the way home, and my credit cards aren't working," she said. "What did you do, Eric?" "Well, since we're getting divorced, we can't have joint cards anymore," I told her. "We also have separate bank accounts now. I have one. You have one. And there's a third one that Olivia is in, also for household expenses. I put half of our savings and half of our investment accounts into your checking account. You'll have to get your own credit cards if you need them. The server said you tore up the papers. I suggest you get new ones and sign them. If you don't, I will send your new pornographic video to your parents. I don't know if they like porn, but since you're a star, they might like it." "You bastard!" she shouted. "I should have known better. How do I get new papers?" "That's your problem," I told her. "I bought you the first set. I've made an appointment with a realtor. She's going to tell us how much the house is worth. You have two options. You can buy me out or I can buy you out. But I have to tell you that you won't be able to make the payments if you decide to buy me out." "I'm not doing anything," she said. "The divorce is going to take a long time. I don't see the point in doing anything until the divorce is final." "It'll take about a month," Olivia told her. "No, it doesn't," Cindy said. "I know it takes longer. We're going to file for a simplified divorce," I told her. "There are no children to argue custody over. I won't pay you child support, and we'll agree on the division of assets. I'll give you half of our assets. We can have a final hearing 20 days after the petition is filed." "You make 3 times as much as me," she said. I think you should pay me alimony." "Well, I have a video that says I shouldn't do it," I pointed out. "Besides, if you mess with me, you'll be out of a job and I predict lose your license to practice." She argued and ranted until Olivia and I left and locked ourselves in our bedrooms. Somehow she managed to sign the papers and we scheduled a hearing. I drew up all the property division papers and she signed them as well. Every day for 27 days, she told me she didn't want a divorce. She loved me and it was all just a misunderstanding on my part. As the hearing approached, she became more and more desperate. 3 days before the hearing, she left me a note that she needed to talk to me and Olivia and asked that we please wait until she got home from work. She ran upstairs and took a quick shower, then came back downstairs and got us all a beer each. She asked us to sit around the bar in the kitchen and talk to us while she made something to eat. It was obvious that she was very nervous and didn't know how to start. She took a couple bites from her dinner and just stared at us for a minute. It was unreal. We had been here so many times and now it was over. I had no idea what she wanted. Finally, she sighed and began. "Eric, Olivia, I want to apologize to both of you," she said. "I've made some terrible mistakes. I never dreamed all of this would happen. I never thought it would come to this. I completely misjudged you, Eric. I expected you to understand and support me. I realize now that that was a mistake. I get it." "No, you're not wrong," I told her. "It wasn't a mistake. You still don't see anything wrong with what you did. In your mind, the problem isn't what you did. It's that I didn't understand or support you. It was just my emotional need." "Why can't you understand that? I love you, Eric. Always have and always will. Why are you so jealous and immature?" "Well, I remember something about us standing in front of 100 people and promising each other to leave everyone else behind," I told her. "And before that, you said you understood me and that what you did then would never happen again. It did. Only this time it's worse. It's not that I don't understand and support you, Cindy. It's that you are lying, deceitful, and unfaithful. You did this, not me." "Oh, please." Now she was disgusted. "What about all the time you spend with Allison? I know about you and her." "You don't know shit," I told her. "I never laid a finger on that girl. But don't think I didn't think about it. You know what kept me from doing it? I was married to you. I loved you with every fiber of my being, and the thought that I might betray you, hurt you, kept me from ever having a relationship, let alone sex with anyone else. I've never been with any other woman sexually or otherwise in all the time I've been exclusively with you. It's all because of you." "I don't believe you," she said. "I believe you," Olivia said. "You're the only one I don't believe." "Of course, Daddy's little angel," shouted Cindy. "You always hated me and you were on his side." "Bullshit," Olivia said. "You're just mad at everyone around you because you screwed up yourself. Now you say you're apologizing. For what? For getting caught? What's the big deal?" "You have no idea what you're talking about," Cindy shouted. "Of course I do," Olivia grined. "That's pathetic, Mom. And you left Dad for this? I didn't throw anything away," she cried. "I never wanted any of this to happen. I don't want a divorce. I love you, Eric. Can't you see that?" "No. I just see a supremely selfish woman who needs to get her needs met, regardless of the damage she does to others," I said. "Are we done?" "No," Cindy sobbed. "What do I have to do to make things right? I'll do whatever you want me to do. Please don't divorce me, Eric. Let Daddy speak for himself, though. Eric?" She looked at me with pleading eyes. "Okay, don't sneak around behind my back. Don't date other men. Don't lie to me," I said. "Oh, wait, you've already done all that. The train has left the station, Cindy. We've had a few happy years. I'm not going to burn your house to the ground. I'm willing to give you half of everything we have except Olivia. Thank God she's all grown up. I'll keep her. I don't need half of everything. I just need you, Eric." She turned and walked up the stairs, looking like she was a zombie. 3 days later, the divorce was finalized, and Olivia and I moved to a new place. We found a nice 3-bedroom apartment not too far from the hospital where she worked and not too far from my job. We went furniture shopping and finally made the apartment feel like home. I put the house on the market and Cindy couldn't take it anymore. When I got home from work, she was standing leaning against my truck. "What do you want, Cindy?" I asked. "Where am I supposed to live?" She asked, "Don't you think this has gone on long enough, Eric? How long are you going to stay mad at me? Can't we just move on before it's too late? Are you really going to sell the house, or is this just a lesson to me?" If it's a lesson, I learned it, okay? Now stop it and come home. I realize now. I made a mistake. Can't you forgive me? I forgive you, I said. Now would you mind stepping away from my door so I can go home? She left to her car and I went home, not to the old house, but to the new one. I'd been there about an hour when the phone rang. It was Jack. Eric, we have a meeting at 10 in the morning, he said. That's the one we were supposed to have a while ago. We had some problems, but everything is on track now. It's important, and I want you to be on top of it. Allison told me about what's going on in your life. I want to know that you can handle it. I told him I was fine and that I would be ready. I really was fine. I surprised myself. Upon reflection, I realized it was almost inevitable. What was surprising was that it lasted as long as it did. There was something wrong with Cindy's moral compass. She'd always been like this. The only thing holding her in the right direction was the fear of losing me. I made such an impression on her after the George Cooper story that she didn't forget it for 27 years. The idea that her needs had to be met finally overcame her fear, and she began to act on it. I had lost a lot of time. I was 46 years old and had to start planning the rest of my life. I called Allison to see if she wanted to hang out. She had a date. I called Samantha and invited her and Cecilia to dinner. They were free, so I made reservations at Gino's. It was a nice Italian restaurant that I had been to before. It was a little pricey there, but the tetrazzini were unbeatable. I took the car out to drive them. I didn't feel like driving a truck up to a nice restaurant. They made it to my house, and I let them in when they rang the doorbell. They owed an AEW about the new place, and I treated them to a glass of wine and gave them the grand tour. When we were ready, I took them to the garage. Cecilia started jumping up and down. "Oh, my God," she shrieked. "What is it?" I looked around for a spider or something. "What is it, Cecilia?" "That's quite a car. I like it. What is it?" "It's a 1951 Mercury," I said. "Do you want to ride in it?" "Hell yeah," she practically drooled. "What's in it?" she asked. "Don't tell me it's one of those cheesy 302S? "No, I don't really like that engine," I told her. They used to put them in Mustangs, but they broke in half at over 500 horsepower. It was a Windsor 351. That's a Stoker, and this is a 408 making about 540 horsepower and 575 pounds per foot of torque. "Tell me you're not a gearhead enthusiast? I like hot dogs." She snatched the keys out of my hand. It took her a minute to realize there were no door handles on the car, but she pressed the remote and the doors opened. We jumped into the car and she started it. A rumble filled the garage, and she was like a kid in a candy store. Her eyes were flashing, her hair was flying in different directions, and she was just adorable. She saw the nitrous oxide switch and squealed, "I have to try this." She couldn't wait. She backed up and smoked the tires heading down the street. Samantha shrieked, and I buckled her seatbelt in mine, too. Cecilia laughed. "Nervous, Eric?" "Terrified," I told her. She really was a very good driver. She kept in the fast lane and was going about 6 or 7 miles an hour over the speed limit. We pulled onto an empty stretch of highway, and she looked at me with one eyebrow raised. I looked back at Samantha, and she was grinning like the Cheshire Cat. "Hang in there," I told her. Cecilia hit it, and we found ourselves pressed into our seats. She hit the switch, and the nitrous turned on. We were flying when she turned off the switch and came back down. Her teeth were gleaming, and she was just vibrating with excitement. "Thank you, Eric." She threw me a glance. "I've always wanted to do this. Anything to make my girl happy," I said. She threw me another glare that made my clothes go up and smoke. We had a great dinner. I kissed them both goodbye and put them in Cecilia's car. Samantha hugged me and whispered in my ear, "She likes you, Eric. Be nice to her." I winked at her, and she got in the car. I went around to everyone and asked Cecilia if she would agree to go to the lake with me on Saturday. She was a little hesitant, but agreed, and I set up a time to pick her up. Olivia pulled up just then and said hello. Something seemed a little strange to me, but they only talked for a minute. She took my hand and we waved as they drove away. "She's the sweetest person I've ever seen," she admitted. "Age bothers me a little, Daddy." "I'm still in good shape," I told her. "Yeah, but her arm is broken." She looked at me slightly. I burst out laughing. "I think Samantha is too big a woman for me." I squeezed Olivia in a hug. "God, I love you, baby," I told her. "Me too," she said. We walked into the house and she told me about her date. We talked for a while and went to bed. I was completely unprepared for the next morning. I don't know how you can prepare for something like that. When I arrived, there was a Nordic-looking gentleman sitting in the office. Inside were 3 men who looked like lawyers. Our company lawyer Jack and Allison, and they all looked very serious. Jack introduced me, and the Nordic guy's name was something unpronounceable. Eric were selling the business. Jack told me, "I'm ready to retire." Allison doesn't need the company, but she wants to work. The only way I'll agree to the sale and the only condition they put on the purchase is that you become president of the company and regional vice president at the parent company. I have prepared a package of documents for you to look at. I think you'll like it. He held out the folder to me. I didn't look at him. "What about Ali?" I asked. She smiled happily at me. "I'm moving into your old job," she said. "I'm promoting my assistant and getting a big compensation package myself. Thanks for thinking of me, Eric." I squeezed her hand. "Okay, I'll look into it," I said. "When do I have to make a decision?" I had 2 weeks. That night I took Allison out to dinner. She wanted to go dancing afterward, and we had a great time. We had just sat down at the table after a hot number, and I saw Allison's eyes narrow. She was looking over my shoulder. I turned to look and saw Cindy and Asswipe. She was dragging him by the arm, and it was obvious he wanted no part of it. Cindy lowered herself into the booth across from us and pulled him behind her. Allison nodded. "Cindy, Needle Dick, it's so good to see you." Cindy became furious. "Allison, I don't think you're in a position to call someone names. I know your life. It didn't take you long to move in with my husband, did it?" "I think we're divorced, Cindy," I remarked. "Then I'm not your husband. Maybe it slipped your mind." "I don't date married men," Allison said. "I wonder if you can say the same. Is Nidik here divorced? I know his wife has filed for divorce, but I haven't heard that it's been done." "Yeah, and we all know who's to blame for his wife kicking him out of the house and not letting him see the kids," Cindy snapped back. "Did you really have to censor that video, Eric? You ruined a good man's marriage. I think you also had something to do with getting us both fired. I hope you're pleased with yourself." "Well, I pretty much think so," I told her. "I'm no longer married to a cheating whore. The scumbag who ruined 2 marriages is in a world of hurt right now, and I think you're both the ones responsible for everything that's happened to you. I heard the state is going to revoke his license. Something about him not being in the emergency room when the emergency arose. I hope your needs are being met. Emotions okay? Everything has been great, but I think you should take deep shit and leave. Olivia hasn't spoken to me since you moved out," she said. "Did you really have to sick her on me too?" "It's all on your conscience," I told her. "I haven't said one bad word about you. The thing is, we don't talk about you at all, Cindy. You hurt us, but we move on. Call her if you want to talk to her. She won't return my calls," she snapped back. "She's blocked me." "How is that my problem?" I asked. "Maybe she's getting her needs met. Now it's time for you to go. I didn't invite you to sit down, and I'm going to see if Dickwad's nose is healed." He left unceremoniously, and Cindy left out of breath. I didn't care as long as she left. I stood up and pulled Allison to me for another dance. The song changed to a slow number, and she pressed herself against me. "I'm sorry, Eric," she said into my shoulder. "It's not your fault. I'm sorry she ruined the party." She raised amber-colored eyes full of smoke at me. "Who says it's tainted?" she asked. I looked down at the vision in my hands. "I wasn't kidding when I said I loved you," she said. "I never thought I'd get the chance." "I love you too," I said. "You're my best friend. You wouldn't even go to dinner with me if it wasn't a business," she laughed. "Yeah, but I didn't trust myself with you." I laughed. "I didn't trust you either, for that matter." "I know you, Allison. You'd eat me up and spit the bones out. You were so wrong," she said. "I've been looking for someone like you my whole life. You just set the bar so high that I could never find a guy like that. I would never hurt you, Eric. I think you've created an image of me in your imagination that doesn't match reality," I told her. "I'm 10 years older than you, even though you look 20-something. I'm easygoing, moderately tough, and a little broken." "Yes, I know all about it," she said. "I've been working with you for years. Sometimes you piss me off. You're so damn stubborn when you think you're right, but you're willing to die for the ones you love. You have no idea how attractive you are to me. You're still a little boy at heart, Eric. You've had a lot of growing up to do lately. You don't seem to be embarrassed by Cecilia's age. Take me home, Eric," she said. We got to her house, got down to it, and after a while, she started crying. I was shocked. I'd never seen her cry in all the years I'd known her. "I know I am what I seem to be," she gasped. I was meant to be like this. The only man I ever wanted was someone I couldn't have. I could have been anything for you. I swear, Eric, if you give me a chance, you'll never regret it. I believe you, baby, I told her. I've never seen you hurt anyone you love. I trust you. Let's go ahead and see what happens, okay? Will you go on dates with me? I forgot how it's supposed to happen. I never thought I'd need to know it again. I know, she whispered. Don't worry. I'll take care of you. I have a meeting out of town tomorrow afternoon, but I'll be free, very free, as soon as I get back. I thought I was completely exhausted, completely drained, but she proved me wrong at 5:30 in the morning. Then I took a shower and rushed home to change. Olivia walked in when I had already rushed out and looked at me. Daddy, I need to talk to you tonight, she said. Okay, baby? I kissed her cheek. I grabbed my bagel and headed out. When Allison walked into work, she saw me staring at her and said, Keep thinking like that when I get back, we'll close the door. And Jesus, Ali, I peeked out from behind the door. Marla will hear you. Fortunately, my assistant wasn't at his desk. After Allison left, work became routine and I left at 4:30. I was exhausted and I was looking forward to taking a quick nap. Olivia had just gotten home when I walked in and went to change. The doorbell rang, and when I opened it, Cecilia was standing there. She rushed inside and hugged me. Would you like something to drink? I asked her. She wanted a beer and I got one too. We sat down on the couch and she snuggled up against me. Eric, there's something I want to talk to you about, she said. Uh-oh, I thought to myself. Life is getting complicated. I looked down at her. The thing was, she was younger than Olivia. I liked being around her. Hell, I liked everything about her. But I saw insurmountable challenges, even aside from Allison. I waited for her to speak. I don't know how to tell you, she finally uttered. I'm very grateful to you for what you did for Grandma, and you've been so good to us ever since. I know you like me, Eric. I know what I look like, and most guys think I'm pretty. You're a very nice-looking man. When we met, I felt like there was something between us and I was attracted to you. But I don't think it's going to work out, and I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to hurt you either. I squeezed her. I know, I said. I'm flattered as hell that you think of me that way. I really want to be your friend. I want us to be buddies for the rest of my life. The thing is, there's an amazing woman in my life. 3 of them to be exact, but there's only one I really want to be with. I'm really excited about it, she said. It makes everything so much easier. I think I'm going to be in your life for a long time, Eric. I kind of have someone too. Anyone I know? I asked. Sort of, Olivia muttered from the doorway. Do you mind if I go with you and Cecilia to the lake on Saturday? I must have looked like a complete fool. My gaze darted back and forth between them, and Olivia burst out laughing. She came over and nuzzled against me from the other side. I finally managed to pull myself together. I didn't know you girls skated like that, I whispered. They both found it amusing. We both like men too, Cecilia said. When we met at the hospital, it was just love at first sight. Olivia called me and asked me out. We had 2 dates, and I think I found the other half of my soul with her. She feels the same way about me. Don't you like that, Eric? I hugged them both tightly. Not at all, I assured them. The 2 girls I love each other. What's there to hate? I'm very happy for both of you. Now I'll have 2 gorgeous girls with me at the lake on Saturday. I'm sure there will be 3 of them, Olivia said. I invited Allison. I'm ruled by powerful women, I lamented. Yes, isn't it wonderful? My daughter said. You're going to be very happy. Allison came home and I spent Thursday and Friday nights with her. I was a walking zombie at work, but Olivia was right. I was very happy. There were few snakes in the garden because Cindy kept interfering in our lives. She called me 3 times a week and pestered the hell out of Olivia. Eventually they got together, and I don't know what Olivia said or did, but she stopped calling. Olivia said she had moved to Oklahoma City and was working in private practice. I didn't care as long as she stayed there. It took about 3 months, but Allison kept pushing until I gave up and moved in with her. She was the girl of my dreams. About 8 months later, I invited her, Olivia, and Cecilia over for dinner on Friday night. I had already made my decision and had something planned. After dinner, I signaled the waiter and he went to the kitchen. He came back with 4 pieces of cake. He gave us all a slice, leaving Allison for last. On top was a small figure of a swan. It held a ribbon in its beak, and tied to the ribbon was a ring. The diamonds seemed a little dim to me. There were 3 of them surrounding a large, square emerald. She covered her mouth with her hand and looked up at me. Her amber eyes were moist and glistening. "Allison, will you marry me?" I asked. "Oh my God, yes!" She practically jumped into my lap. I knew the rest of my life was going to be the best part. On Monday, I played golf with Jack. I beat him on the previous hole, and I got the first hole. It was beautiful. I took a little power shot and ended up about 60 yards from the pin. Great shot. He was stunned. "Geez, Eric, I'm going to have to improve my game or start bribing Allie to wear you down." I chuckled. "I'm like fine wine, Jack. I get better the older I get." He aimed his t-shirt into the trees. "I think you can kiss that bird goodbye," I teased him. "Yeah?" He smiled. "I guess you're lucky. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.